Welcome, everybody. I'm Keith from 2A Cops, Cops Supporting Gun Rights.
I'm Matt from 2A Cops.
And if you love Jesus and you love guns, hit that like, subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that way you can get updates about what cops think about gun control. You'll like what you hear. Today, Matt and I have been saying for at least 10 years that it's very obvious that the liberals want to federalize police forces, take away local control. And the reason why they want to do that is so they can seize your guns. So for years, sheriffs have been coming out and saying they are not going to enforce certain gun regulations, certain assault weapon rules that politicians are putting out there. And they've just flat out said they're not going to do it. Well, the left has now convinced the right to hate cops. And I see in the comments, a lot of you guys make comments that I can see you're falling in line with some of that leftist ideology that's going to actually end out getting local control replaced by federal control. So as an example, in LA, which I know you guys don't care about LA, but you should because a lot of liberal policy comes out of those places. LA Mayor Karen Bass called to remove obstacles for new police recruits, meaning they're going to hire people that shouldn't be hired. And they're going to root out officers with right-wing domestic extremism. That would be
conservatives.
So basically people like Matt and I
Right.
are considered right-wing extremist police officers. Matt has done more research than I have on this issue. Matt wrote a great article about how and why they want to make a national police force in regards to gun control. So Matt, what?
Well, first off, on her, Karen Bass, she was I don't know if she was a senator or a congressperson, but she was on the federal level as a legislator prior to becoming the mayor of LA, and she was actually pushing a national bill to federalize law enforcement. She wants to do away with local law enforcement. If you do a little bit of digging on the internet, it doesn't take much Googling to find lots and lots of articles written by liberals, left-leaning people who are all talking about federalizing law enforcement. And they do it, they're telling you things like it's going to provide more oversight, it'll give them better training, it'll give them better control, it'll reduce corruption. That's their argument to federalize it, which I find ironic because anybody who knows anything about a larger federal agency knows that all of those things are less. There's not better control. There's less control. Hiring standards are not as the same. If you look at what's going on with the FBI now, with the way they've been politicized, picture an entire federal law enforcement agency, and you don't have the protection of the local cops anymore, that you've got now the feds who would obviously become politicized. It can happen at the FBI or the CIA. It can happen anywhere. If there's the nice thing, like Keith pointed out, you've got local law enforcement is under local control. Sheriffs are elected locally. City mayors are elected locally, and they appoint their police chiefs. As long as you're not in a liberal city, you're going to have you'll have a conservative as a mayor, and you're probably going to get somebody who's a pro-gun chief of police. There are some out there. Typically, the bigger cities are all going to be liberal-leaning, and fortunately, that's the way that works out.
But like where we live,
even in liberal-leaning states like California, where we both came from, the sheriff that I worked for was a very conservative guy, very pro-gun guy, very constitutional guy. There's lots of sheriffs all around. Even in cities that are liberal, the sheriffs tend to be more conservative.
And even like where we live now, we have good police chiefs where we live now. Now, we just did a video on the IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and we railed against them for their gun control policies. But I do need, Matt's
IACP is also international, too. That's not even just U.S. chiefs of police. You get all the anti-gun European chiefs of police
But it's worth mentioning there are some really good chiefs out there that are not gun grabbers.
Correct.
I've worked for some of them, and I was also in Northern California, but I was in Alameda County, which is the most liberal place in America. And even I had one liberal chief, and then the rest were pretty big conservatives.
You don't find a whole lot of liberals working in law enforcement just because even if you start out there, like a lot of guys that you talk to, guys who did their careers in New York, they start out kind of with the whole New Yorker attitude against guns. But if you work in law enforcement long enough, you start seeing that it's not normal people that are gun owners that are out committing the gun crimes. People that law-abiding citizens are using their guns for self-defense. So a career in law enforcement tends to turn people more conservative. You don't go in as a conservative and come out liberal. It works the other way around.
So we're lucky to have local control for law enforcement because, you have cops that know the community, love the community.
They live in the community.
Yeah, they live in the community. They know what the community wants. And if you bring in if we federalize law enforcement like the left wants, Obama even came out.
Yeah, he was talking about it when he was running for election.
Yep, saying that we needed to replace local law enforcement with federal.
For that matter, the Obama Foundation, his foundation, is still pushing for police reform, even though he's not even in office anymore.
And so you can see right now that they are trying to root out people like me and Matt. And like to be honest, I'll let Matt speak for himself. But for me, I had been resisting retirement because I liked my job, but then they made it unbearable for us.
Yeah, I liked my job. I just had to get the hell out of California.
Yeah, and they root out good people like us because they make it unbearable for us to work there. And it just a side note on some of the comments, there'll be like, it's 1% of the comments, but somebody will say, "Oh, you're just going to do what your masters say because you're going to protect your salary." And I don't think you guys realize like
how many times we don't do what they tell us.
Yeah, we don't do what they exactly. We ignore the unlawful stuff that they put out there. But the other thing is, a lot of cops now they're all quitting because they hate it. And so people say you're going to do whatever you can to protect your job.
That's the problem. The people they're hiring are the ones who are going to do whatever they're told.
Exactly. So they're replacing us with drones. And so I have friends that are still doing background investigations right now, and they're looking at it, who is coming on to replace us. And they're people that never would have been hired 10 years ago. We wouldn't even. It's called a personal history statement. You basically fill out this 150-page document on your prior history, and there's people that we would have fired them or not even looked at them based on the personal history statement alone, and they're hiring them because there's nobody to answer 911 calls. A good example is Memphis.
Right.
Memphis, you had
Tyree Nichols situation.
You had that horrible use of force. All but one of those officers was hired after 2020. And there are people that never would have been hired 10 years ago. But there's nobody to answer calls in Memphis because all the good people in Memphis are leaving because it's a crappy place to work.
Well, nobody wants to work there either because they're all and it's not, you get a lot of people barking on social media and stuff. There's a lot of noise that's anti-police. But all the surveys they've done, even the people who live in the neighborhoods that, predominantly black communities, the surveys come out of there and 80% of those people want more cops, not fewer cops. It's just the loud vocal minority. The BLM types, the Antifa types, those are the ones that are out there. It's people jumping off on bad information, in that case, completely fictitious information or incomplete information, and it makes the cops look bad. But then when the whole truth comes out, it's not, and I'm not remotely suggesting there's not bad incidents where cops have gone out to do red flag laws, because we've seen incidents where cops have ended up, there was like a 71-year-old guy, I want to say it was in Massachusetts or Maryland, I can't recall which, but he ended up getting shot by the cops because they were there to enforce a red flag law. Keith and I are very against red flag laws for that very reason. But that's kind of irrelevant, although it's not irrelevant, because if you get rid of all the cops that are out there that think like Keith and I do, that these red flag laws are not good, you start getting rid of all of them, you're going to get people who are taught from day one in the academy that red flag laws are good, and they're going to do what they're told. So it's kind of...
They're getting rid of the independent thinkers.
Right. They're getting rid of people,
the people that have common sense and follow the law, believe in the Constitution, and they're replacing us with people that, Memphis. Again, Memphis is the perfect example. And let's go back to LA with Karen Bass coming out and saying, we want to root out the right-wing extremists and replace them with people that have failed the background, have failed the entrance test, people that they failed for a good reason. The thing is
what is now considered a right-wing extremist that definition has changed in the last 5 to 10 years. It now just considers anybody that's a conservative as a right-wing extremist.
Well, and you go back to LA. they had an incident called the Rampart Scandal way back in the day,
early 90s,
90s, and they lowered hiring standards, much like what they're talking about today.
And they started hiring guys who were dealing dope out of their patrol cars and
Yep,
committing homicides and all kinds of stuff.
And ripping off drug dealers and all this kind of stuff. And the problem is that...
And they did that all on the basis of trying to hire people that matched the community appearance-wise.
Yes, and it goes back to what me and Matt are saying, is they now have people that in the gun community, they have them against the police, and ultimately they don't have to defund the police. They made it so miserable that we all left. Right. All of us, we left. And they're replacing us with people that are absolute screw-ups, which proves their point that there needs to be police reform, which the only police reform available left anymore is to replace with the feds. And if you look at like Oakland Police Department, Oakland, California Police Department is the only city in America that was put under a consent decree where the feds actually took over, and the feds now run that police department. And if you look at look at the city of Oakland and tell me, is that what you want? That's a Fed run.
Well, then you get into like people complain that there's they want accountability with their local law enforcement, which makes sense. You want your local law enforcement to represent the community, to be responsible to the community. The community has concerns. You want the cops to address that. Where has any federal agency had better accountability than a local agency? I mean, if you can show me one example of that, then maybe we can have a discussion. But there's thousands of examples of federal agencies not caring what the local community is dealing with.
If they did a federal police force, it would probably fall under Homeland Security.
It would probably fall under Homeland Security.
Look at Homeland Security. Are you satisfied with what they're doing?
Yeah, and that's not to knock the guys that are working on the end, the end workers. Like you can look at the guys that work for Border Patrol. They're busting their butts, but look at the guy running it, Mayorkas.
Yeah, he's an absolute buffoon, and he's destroying America. Right. Is it intentional?
Who knows? Probably.
Well, I actually talked to a friend that knows Mayorkas from way back. I don't know what this guy's what Mayorkas' history is, but he made the comment. He's like, I don't know what's up with him. I don't talk to him anymore, because he was conservative, but the stuff coming out of his mouth now is something I never would have seen him say a long time ago, which we see with Swalwell. Eric Swalwell is a very anti-gun representative. He was actually representative for the area that I worked. I worked with his brothers. His brothers were his dad and his brother were cops, and I talked to him probably twice a week because he was a prosecutor in my office. I had to go get cases prosecuted, and what's coming out of his mouth now is not what came out of his mouth 20 years ago. He's a turncoat.
Yeah, that guy's nuts too.
But you don't want people like that running our police force.
Yeah,
they're absolutely going to destroy America. So what can good Americans do to turn this around? Like, how are we going to stop this?
Now you're putting me on the spot.
I am putting you on the spot, man. Come
I
on,
don't know.
Let's hear it.
Honestly, I mean, it's going to be, you got to do what you can. And again, this is not to say cops are infallible and that if they screw up, they shouldn't be held accountable.
And we call out bad work all the time.
Yeah. But you still need to support your local agencies. If there's something screwing up, then you address that. But it's the whole "don't throw the baby out with the bathwater" idea. You don't want to get rid of your entire local law enforcement because you're gonna lose that local accountability. You're gonna lose that local control, and you're gonna get it replaced by people that are just going to do what they're told. So, I mean, do what you can to support your local cops. Talk to your local cops. You'll find that much more of them are pro-gun than you imagine. Keith and I have done surveys. There's Police One did that one survey. It's probably been 10 years ago now, but it was like 50,000 cops that they surveyed, and cops overwhelmingly are pro 2A. And there's always going to be an example of a cop who does something stupid and screws up and violates someone's rights, but it's noteworthy because it's the minority. If it was occurring every day, you'd never hear about it. Like, you don't hear about, oh, look, an illegal immigrant came across the border today, because there's tens of thousands of them crossing every day.
So bring up, like, going back, I forgot what I was going to say. Damn it, I lost it.
Well, you were trying to interrupt me. So.
I was, because it was important. I wanted to bring it up really quick. look, let's put it this way. For the best thing that you can do is go on a ride along with your local agency. You can go hang out with the cops and go listen
Sit
to
down
what
and
they
talk
have
to
to
them and
say.
have a coffee with them.
Exactly. And then ask them what they have to say. They'll be the street cops will be very honest. Your chief, they'll be a little political.
Give them a couple beers.
Yeah, but go talk to a guy with no stars, stripes,
no
or
stripes,
anything
no
else,
bars.
right? And
Stripes are probably okay. Bars, no.
yeah, they'll tell you the truth, man.
And that's not knocking my friends who have bars.
Yeah, Mike, we apologize.
Yeah.
But look, call out bad cops when they do bad things, right? But I'll give you an example. The comments, I laugh at the comment when you say, "You'll do whatever you can do to save your pension." A majority of cops in America don't have a pension; they have a 401k, and it's absolutely a crappy system. And they're looking for a reason to leave. The other thing is like, oh, you'll do anything to save your salary. Most cops in America make $15 to $20 an hour. That's a joke. You can make that at McDonald's. They don't care about that. They want to leave. They're looking for.
They went into the job for the right reasons, and then you get in there, and then you get disheartened because you get but I shouldn't say half. You get very very vocal minority talking about you constantly. Then you got politicians talking shit about you constantly.
For me, it was when conservatives
throw some beeps in there.
That's all right. For me, it was when conservatives.
Yep, that's when it started to hurt.
Started bashing me. That's when I'm like, well, I'm out. I'm done because I don't have. I loved it when we would have some guy holding his family hostage, or I didn't love that, but I mean we'd have a man holding his family hostage, or we had a gang member that was popping rounds off at the cops, and the SWAT team shows up. I was on SWAT for 20 years, and we show up. And I loved it when the neighborhood started applauding, you're going to go get this guy.
Help. Exactly.
And it's like, look, man, I'm going to go put my life at risk to go save these neighbors, and they're applauding what we're doing. Or somebody's running from you, and citizens are like, he's going that way, and you're like, yeah,
stuff that you see around here.
Yes, yeah. Well, we live in real America now. But it made you feel.
But you used to get that, and even in the shitty ghetto neighborhood, ghetto neighborhoods. Because they don't want that in their neighborhood either. But now the people that live there have kind of been brainwashed to the cops just show up and people start screaming at you. It doesn't matter what you're there for.
What killed me was seeing a guy in a MAGA shirt holding up his phone saying, "I'm watching you because you guys are out to kill people, blah, blah, blah." And when I saw a guy wearing a MAGA shirt doing that, I'm like, really, man? Seriously? It was just an everyday contact, and it was just like.
Well, part of the problem is the media, whether there's all the websites that track police killings. All the different agencies. And thankfully, Tucker Carlson actually analyzed it one time, but even Fox News puts it out there sometimes that there's been 1,000 people a year get shot by the cops. Well, it doesn't talk about why they were shot. It just says 1,000 people were shot by the cops. It doesn't say that, they were shooting at the cops at the time. They were trying to run them over with a car. They were holding a gun to a hostage head. They don't put anything about circumstances. Well, how many of those were innocent people who were shot by the cops? It's like one every 5, 6 years. And it does happen. Yeah. There was that incident back in Florida where it was like a healthcare worker who was out there trying to catch the runaway kid from the group home, and the cops had him at gunpoint, and one of the cops cranked off a round. And thankfully didn't kill him.
Yeah.
And it didn't help any that it was a black dude that they shot too. Yeah. But it was, and that cop got prosecuted too, as he well should have. He shot an unarmed guy for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it was a negligent discharge or if it was intentional, but whatever. It was stupid. It was a bad shot. It was a bad shoot. And like you said, we call out bad actions by police, even if they're unintentional. It's still a bad act.
So do us a favor. Leave a comment down in the comment section. Let us know what you think.
If it's ACAB or any of those.
No. You know what's cool? You know what's cool about ACAB though? No, hold on. Me and Matt, we do make money off our YouTube channel, and everybody that does FTP or ACAB, it lets the algorithm know that we're important, and it shares it. And we make more money, and we give 10% of everything we earn to a cop in need. So every ACAB and FTP helps a cop in need. So, hey, whatever, man. That's up to you, brother. We still love you, and Jesus still loves you. All right. That's all we got for now. We'll let us know in the comments, too, what kind of videos you want. What are you looking for from us? So that's all we got for now. Stay safe. Take care.
And remember your ABCs. Always be caring.